I'll give a minute or two just to get a couple more people in. All right, so the time is 6:32. I'm gonna go ahead and get started for the sake of time. First off, I want to thank you all for joining. This is a virtual public meeting for the Shady Grove Vision Zero Pedestrian and Cyclist Improvement. This is a public meeting and it will be recorded. The recordings will be available on the website tomorrow after the meeting. All right, so we do have just some brief overview on how this meeting will work since it is virtual. So we have all the microphones muted and we ask that you keep your cameras turned off just to reduce the bandwidth for the connection tonight. We want to make sure that everything is going through and not lagging. Following tonight, well, throughout the presentation and at the very end of the presentation, there will be question and answer sessions. So you can just raise your hand or you can also type it in the chat box if you have anything come up throughout the presentation. And here's some instructions on where it is. You just use the icons in order to raise your hand. And if you're on the telephone, then you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute yourself. All right, so the agenda for tonight's meeting is we're going to start off with background information on the projects. There's going to be some strategies to improve our strategies that we're going to use to improve the pedestrian and bicycle safety along Shady Grove. An overview of the interactive GIS map where you'll be able to leave comments and also see laid out over aerials what our strategies are proposed. We will present the preliminary design concepts and then we will also take questions and comments at the end. Okay, so to start it off, I'll introduce myself. My name is Cameron McAllister. I work with Montgomery County Department of Transportation, and I'm a planning specialist, and I'm the project manager for this. I also have my colleague Dan Sheridan on with me. He's the chief of transportation, planning, and design for our department. And we've also worked with engineering consultants, and you'll be hearing from them, Mercado consultants, and also tool design group throughout the presentation as well. All right, so the introduction of this study is to improve bicycle and pedestrian safety along Shady Grove Road as part of the county's Vision Zero plan. So the Vision Zero plan is basically trying to get the number of fatalities with any accidents between drivers and cyclists or pedestrians down to zero. The entire project extends from Darnestown Road up to Mid-County Highway. Yeah, from Darnestown Road to Mid-County Highway. But for the purposes of this meeting, we'll be going from Darnestown Road to Gaither Road. And we're going to host another public meeting in the spring that will cover from Gaither Road to Mid-County Highway. This project has not yet been funded for construction, and our purpose today is to gather community feedback on the proposed concept. Alrighty, so throughout the presentation, there may be certain terminology that you may use. So, you may hear. So I want to go over what some of that means. So a breezeway network It's basically a high capacity network of arterial bikeways between major activity center and enabling cyclists to travel with fewer delays, and where all users, including moving bicyclists and pedestrians, can safely exist and comfortably coexist. So one example of that is a shared use path, and that's usually a facility located off the road. Well, it is a facility located off the road. The width can vary, but it provides two-way travel for people walking, cycling, and using other non-motorized vehicles. Um, a buffer that refers to the space between like the sidewalk or a side path and the actual vehicle traffic that's traveling. So that would basically put you in the mind of like your grass median that's in between the curb and the sidewalk when you're walking down the road. Right of way, which is land that's owned by MCDOT, and we can use it to build safer transportation facilities. And then Vision Zero, as I said earlier, is the goal for the county's pedestrian and cyclist fatalities by 2030 is to be zero. All right, so some strategies that we're going to try and implement on Shady Grove Road um, our overall goal is to reduce conflict points between drivers and pedestrians. So that's basically like your intersections, your crosswalks, your right turns on red, or anywhere where there's usually a high volume of conflict where you have a driver traveling one way and a cyclist or pedestrian traveling the opposite. So some of those interactions can be reduced by moving like right here, this is a on-road bike facility. We will try and move that off-road so that it will be behind this buffer. And then you can also widen the existing sidewalk to accommodate both pedestrians and cyclists. All right, so part of the reason why this corridor is important is because the with analyzation through the Vision Zero program, this Shady Grove Road bicycle stress level has been identified as high, which is basically the highest level it can be. So it's definitely an area that has pedestrians that travel along the road. So it's something to be improved upon. And so what we will evaluate throughout our analysis are like lane configurations, signing, pavement marking, adjacent paths, right-of-way limitations, and also utility placement. Some of the strategies that we're going to use throughout this presentation in this corridor is to decrease the curb radii, which is basically in adding truck aprons to slow turning drivers. So basically you'll bring that person up to an intersection so when they make that turn, it'll it'll be easier for them to see a pedestrian or either a cyclist versus where in some areas it's kind of very open and drivers don't have to really get to that full meet like junction of the street before they can make their right or any other turn. And then we can extend a median nose to provide pedestrian refuge at crosswalks. So that's an example in the lower bottom picture where instead of crossing the whole street at once, there is a refuge where pedestrians may be able to stop and then cross the other half. And then we can reduce the width of lanes to 10-foot inside lanes or 11-foot curb lanes. All right, so for this component, this is going to take me to the GIS map that we have composed online. So I'm going to do a demonstration really quick just to show you how this works and how you can use it. So when you first click the link, you will get to this page. And so you have to click view over in this corner. All right, and once the map comes up, there are a set of instructions right here that you can click, and it describes everything for the map. It gives you instructions on how to use it and what information is available, and it also gives you instructions on how to leave a comment. And it's strongly recommended that this is used in the Google Chrome browser. That's what it's been working most fluently with. So what this map actually shows, and you will see this again throughout the presentation, we'll use this to give you a real-time like action of what we're actually proposing. So you can toggle these options to show what's being proposed. Option 1, option 2. It's taking a while to load. And then as well as, of course, you can turn it off. So that's what's existing. And then the other cool feature about this map is that, one second. Okay, so if you click on the blue box here, and you have a comment you want to make. So say if you're looking right here and you see option 1 is proposing something, then you can click new feature. Once you click this blue box, you click new feature, and you add a point on the map, and then you're able to go ahead and type your name, your comment, and then we will also ask that your name and your email address. So then as we're going through the comments, we'll be able to reach back out to you with an answer. And then make sure you hit create, because if you don't hit create, then it won't save, and so then we won't get the comment. And so now I'm going to pass it off to Michael at Mercado to give you segment 1.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Mercado. I'm an associate at Mercado Consultants. We are a Montgomery County small business. Our office is located right over here in Ashton, Sandy Spring area, so roughly about, I would say, 15 minutes to the north of this project site. I do know this location very well. I think I've driven it hundreds, if not 1,000 times. It's very close to our office. It's a project that's right in our backyard, and we're really excited to work on this. So let me pull up my screen, and I'm going to present to you our first section of this project. So, okay, you guys should be able to see my screen now. If you can't, please let me know. Okay, so again, this project, we're looking at the pedestrian and bicycle safety for Shady Grove Road, and the project goes from Darnestown Road to the south, all the way to Mid-County Highway to the north. Today's presentation is half of that length. So we're just going from Darnestown Road to Gaither Road. There will be a second meeting in the future from Gaither Road to Mid-County Highway. But again, this meeting is just for that southern half. It's quite a long corridor. So for this meeting, we're kind of breaking that down into 3 segments, if you will. So segment 1 is going to be from Darnestown Road to I-270. On that map in front of you that you can see, that's that area highlighted in yellow. We're going to have a second segment for the I-270 interchange. And some of my colleagues from Tool Design are going to help present in that section. And then finally, we have another third section, which we're going to have at the end of this presentation, which is from I-270 to Gaither Road. And to give you an idea of structure for each of those 3 segments, we're going to do a presentation to you very much like I'm doing right now. It's going to be about 10 minutes or so, and then we're going to have time for Q&A for each of those 3 sections. So it is quite a long corridor. We're breaking it up into some segments for the presentation. And let's delve into it. So again, this is segment 1, Darnestown Road to the south. To the north, this is just the beginning of that I-270 Shady Grove interchange. All right, so what are the existing conditions out there? This is just a shot looking southbound on Shady Grove Road. And for the majority of your corridor southbound, you have 3 11-foot lanes. 11-foot lanes is pretty typical for county roads. On the right, there's an on-road bike facility. This is 5 feet wide. And then depending on where you are, there's a grass buffer, and then either a 5-foot sidewalk. In some locations, there's an 8-foot side path next to some newer development areas. But for the most part, you have a 5-foot or so sidewalk or side path. In preparation for this project, we walked the entire route to see, okay, how are people using this road? What kind of bicycle traffic do we have on it? What kind of pedestrian traffic do we have on it? And we noticed that there were some bicycles, but for the most part, it wasn't as high volume as we expected, and it was very evident immediately as to why that is. traffic going up and down Shady Grove is very, very fast. I mean, if you're a cyclist on that small 5 foot on-road bike facility, that level of comfort certainly cannot be that high at all. So there's that kind of aspect to it. Not to mention, the speeds on the side. It's a pretty small sidewalk. Sometimes it's 5 feet, 6 feet. Not exactly the easiest for pedestrian connectivity. And then, of course, at each one of these cross streets, you have vehicles going really fast through, or many that are making right turns right in front of you. So we kind of had that in the back of our mind as we developed our strategies. So let's look at some of our proposed concepts. So the biggest concept we have here right from the get-go is that 5 foot bike lane. We saw it wasn't being utilized. We saw that it was very uncomfortable for anybody to attempt to use. So let me move this bar over here. I know you guys can't see it. Okay, here we go. We are proposing to eliminate, first off, that on-road bike facility and widen the side path that's directly next to the roadway. So if you can imagine, if it's right now, it's 5 feet, it would be much wider. The minimum width we're looking at is 10 feet. This is what is in the bicycle master plan for this part of the county. But you would have a 10-foot wide Shady's path, the entire length of Shady Grove Road from Darnestown Road to Mid-County Highway. So southbound, this is what we're proposing. It would have a 5-foot grass buffer, and this buffer is really to give you kind of a level of comfort. Plant trees in this area. Many of the utility poles that we would be impacting would be relocated into this area. And so this is kind of our main concept looking southbound. Northbound is a little bit more complex, both from a master plan perspective and what we are proposing. Let's start with the initial conditions first, and then I'll go into what we're proposing. So initial existing conditions are really the same thing as southbound. You have 3 11-foot lanes. Again, that's very typical for county roads. You have an on-road bike facility right here. That's 5 feet wide. And then throughout northbound, particularly in this segment, there are a variety of these merge lanes or turn lanes that are not being fully used. And I'll show you this in a second when we go to the GIS map. But we're going to look to try to use some of this space more efficiently to get a proposed facility that is both safer and provides a higher level of connectivity to both pedestrians and bicyclists. So let's look at the options. Southbound, we're just proposing one option. That's the 10-foot wide share use path. Northbound, we have 2 options. Okay, option number 1. This is the full vision of the county's complete streets guide. This is the master plan that is proposed for Shady Grove Road. So this is if you fully utilize what the county has in their planning documents, this is the facility that you would get. And so again, if you remember, Cameron had mentioned kind of the breezeway network that the county has envisioned. It's a very forward-thinking idea that you have this network of conduits that can be used both for bicyclists, pedestrians, but it's kind of a wider width, and it's meant for kind of higher speed bicycle lanes. So in this 16-foot width here that we're proposing, you could have both bicycle lanes and pedestrians. It would be a paved surface such as asphalt. We're just showing it as a full 16-foot width, but there's a lot of different ways this could be configured. It could have striping in it. It could have a curb that separates pedestrian and bicyclists. That is for the next stage of the project. For right now, we're just trying to show the basics of this facility. So that's the first big concept of option 1. Along with that, there's also a 5-foot grass buffer. So this is very similar to what you saw looking southbound. And your lane configuration, to make this all fit, we're keeping an 11-foot lane in your outer lane. That's your right lane if you're traveling down traffic. And 11 is what you have right now. The reason for that is to accommodate future bus rapid transit or even existing bus lines that go down this road. And then the 2 inner lanes, that's your leftmost lanes, those are going down from 11 to 10 feet. 10 feet is it's used if you've ever been in Silver Spring or downtown Bethesda. 10 feet is a common lane width used there. And the advantage of 10 feet is it helps slow down traffic a little bit to prioritize pedestrians crossing the road. So this is option 1. Option 2, which I'll show you in a second, is a little less impactful. Option 2 keeps the 3 11-foot lanes, And instead of providing a full 16-foot width, it provides, again, a 10-foot wide shared use path and 5-foot buffer. Now, I purposely chose this picture for this option. You probably are saying, well, what about this merge lane right here? This is referring back to what I said initially. Throughout this northbound lane, there's a variety of these merge lanes or turn lanes that are not being used to their full potential. And we're looking to convert those over to prioritize both bicyclists and pedestrians along this entire length. So with that, let me switch over to the GIS map. All right. And you should be seeing the GIS map in front of you right now. If you're not, please somebody speak up. And Cameron just showed you this a few minutes ago. Again, if you open this up and you're saying, oh, there's kind of a lot in front of the screen here, remember you have this arrow on the left side, and there is a series of instructions here. But we really try to make this user-friendly. There's a lot of options here that you can toggle on and off. And again, I really encourage you to submit comments. We will be reviewing all of them. And please remember to leave your email address so that we can provide specific responses to your questions. Okay, so looking at the GIS map, right here, option 1 is turned on. And just to kind of refresh everybody's memory about what I said a couple minutes ago, option 1 going northbound is that full 16-foot wide side path. That is that breezeway network that accommodates both pedestrians and bicyclists. Southbound, we have a 10-foot wide side path. In both locations, we're looking at providing a minimum of a 5-foot grass buffer. So let's kind of explore this map a little bit to kind of go over some of those items. So for example, let me turn off option 1. You can see that existing 5-foot bike lane here, 5-foot bike lane here. And again, this aerial imagery, just so that in case you're wondering, this was taken in 2023, maybe about 5 or 6 months ago. So this is very, very recent high resolution aerial photography. So again, existing bike lanes, these lanes are all 11 feet wide. This is an example of one of those merge lanes that I was talking about. If you can see, if you were coming in off Research Boulevard here and you made a right turn, well, they throw you into this merge lane that would then just bottleneck traffic right before you got to Corporate Boulevard. So, and I'll go over in a second what we're looking at proposing to do there. Okay, so option 1, you can see immediately that the 5-foot bike lane is no longer there. This is the southbound side on the north. On the bottom of your page, that's the northbound direction. And you can see grass buffer, and here's your 10-foot wide side path going southbound. And over here, this is your 8-foot buffer and 16-foot side path going northbound. We wanted to prioritize, or not only prioritize, but preserve many of the businesses that were along this roadway. And this is why we look to expand towards the roadway as opposed to widening away, such as to not impact businesses or residents' parking areas. Before I go on, I just want to mention, if you're in this app, as you go down Shady Grove Road, the road turns. So if you want to turn your view, just hold down that right mouse button, and you can rotate. So that's a very, very important feature that the map has. Okay, so that was option 1. Let's look at option 2 for a second. Again, you can see the same thing, 10 feet, but now over here, instead of having 16, you're at 10 feet wide. It has less impacts on the outside of the project. I'm going to scroll a little bit towards the south, which would be the left side of this page, and go over a few other items related to the project. Oops, there we go. Let's take a look at this intersection right here. If you recall, Cameron mentioned some of the strategies that the DOT is looking to implement to improve pedestrian safety. So let me give you some examples, or some representations of it on this map. Okay, number 1, Cameron mentioned the idea of having these pedestrian refuge areas, some of these medians extended out. Ooh, there we go. You can see it here. It gives the pedestrians a place to stop as they're crossing over, and extending them out throughout the whole corridor. The second part of it was having those truck aprons. So that's that little gray area here. The idea behind a truck apron is, let's say you had a truck here that was let's say you had a normal car here that's making this right turn. Well, a vehicle would have to take this a little further out, which would slow them down and also give them a chance to see any pedestrians that are crossing this roadway. A truck has a larger turning radius. It needs a little more room. So these are actually mountable for larger vehicles. So in effect, it's taking your standard cars, your standard SUVs that are driving down the road, and it's slowing down those vehicles the most. And your larger trucks, which are typically not moving as fast as those vehicles, those are still able to make that turn. So that's an example of that truck apron. We talked about the median refuge area. Let's go down to another intersection. Okay, this is the intersection at Key West Avenue and West Montgomery Avenue. Here's an example of striping. There will be areas where you have striping specifically for bicyclists. If you've ever been to downtown Bethesda or Silver Spring, you've probably seen this green striping. That is for bike lanes for bicyclists to use as they're going about through the corridor. Okay, one other thing to note was the master plan for that breezeway network begins at West Montgomery Avenue and Key West Avenue. So if you're looking at this map for option one, you'll notice that the 16-foot wide area doesn't start till you're to the north of West Montgomery Avenue. To the south, the master plan has that as just a 10-foot wide side path. So that's kind of a quick overview. The goal of this part of the presentation is to, first off, introduce some of the strategies we're looking at doing in this area, introduce you to that GIS map, and what we're really looking for is to get feedback from you, the public. We realize many of you live next to this road, maybe you have a business next to the road, maybe you drive it daily as a commute to your wherever you're working. We really take your feedback into consideration. This is the very beginning of the project, so anything you say will be hopefully incorporated or will at least give you a response. And the goal is to shape this facility to both prioritize pedestrian and bicycle safety, but also take your feedback into account to make it something that is accessible and usable to the community. So with that, let me pass it back over to Cameron. We're going to do kind of a Q&A session on this first section. And then again, we'll have two other segments that we're going to discuss, one for the I-270 interchange and then for the area between I-270 and Gaither Road, which will come next. So Cameron, I'm going to pass it back over to you.
All right. So I just wanted to give a second to, if anyone had any comments, any quick comments on this section, or any questions, and then we could just keep on going to the next. If not, you can just raise your hand. All right, I'm not seeing any raised hands, so.
Or you can add your comments or questions to the chat too. That's also available.
All right, looks like Jay, you have a question? Or
I have a question. If somebody wanted to type their question into the chat, would they make it to everyone or should they make it to
Lori.
Lori Main? So
Yeah, it's a Lori Main.
yeah, if you pull up the chat, meeting chat, then you can, in the bottom of it, you can say who you want to make the comment to. And Lori is graciously helping us organize this meeting tonight. So if you have a chat or a question and you don't want to do it verbally, you can type it to Lori and she will, once she gets it, she can ask the question. Thanks.
All right, so it looks like, yeah, Jay, you can go ahead.
Just tell me again how you use get this app, and I didn't follow that. Sorry about that. The app you've been using to show us where the roads and intersections are.
Mm-hmm. So the link is it's the second link where it says project comment map.
I guess I didn't know about this meeting until very late, so it was a little confusing.
Maybe Cameron, can you share your screen and show the chat on your screen so that they can see the link? The link was also provided in earlier in the presentation. So it's something that you can, if you click on a link, it usually goes there, but if that doesn't work, you can just copy that and paste it into the
Sure.
Google Chrome browser again, and then you can once you get in there, you can scroll along the whole corridor, turn options on, option 1 on, option 2 on to see how they look, or turn both off to see the existing conditions. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And
All right. Okay.
Cameron, I don't know if can you share your screen and show the chat just to show the link in your chat?
Are you able to see it?
No, we just see you, which is good,
Yes.
but not the link.
Can you see my chat now?
I think it's popping up now.
Yes.
okay.
Well,
Presentation?
that's the whole presentation.
Yeah.
Fuck. Just click what?
So there's a link in the chat on the side. Are you able to pull up your chat? And there's also a link. It's going to be at the end of the presentation that we'll send out via email.
Yeah, Jay, if you can't get to it right now, we can send it to you after the meeting. And then you can play with it on your own time.
Actually, Jay, this is Lori. I just sent it to you directly, a direct message in your chat.
I think while Jay's working on that, we can go on with the rest of the discussion. Unless there's other questions.
All right, so at this point, I'll pass it off to Jimmy, and she'll do the interchange with 270 section of the study.
Awesome. Thanks, Cameron. All right, I am going to steal the screen from you, Cameron. Okay, awesome. And really good questions, because we want people to be able to access that application and send us their comments so that we can take that into consideration. Okay, so good evening. My name is Jinmi Matsunaga. I'm with Tool Design, and I will be presenting the I-270 interchange on Shady Grove Road. There are some unique challenges at the I-270 interchange. So we broke it out into its own separate segment, and we're calling it segment 2. I'm going to present the existing conditions and one of the proposed options for a multimodal facility to get bicyclists and pedestrians through this section of the corridor safely. All right. In the existing conditions, we have 3 through lanes in each direction and long right turn lanes to get onto the I-270 on-ramps. The existing sidewalk in the interchange along the bridge is 4 foot wide and directly adjacent to the travel lanes, where the posted speed for drivers is 45 miles per hour. As you can see in this picture on the right, the sidewalk is the minimum width for pedestrians, and it does not accommodate bicyclists traveling through this section of the corridor.
Jinmi,
Yes.
we see you.
Oh.
We're not seeing your screen. Well, we're seeing you, but not seeing the project map.
Oh, sorry about that.
Looks like now it's popped up. Yep, now I can see it.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for that, Dan. Okay. All right, let me back up a couple of slides then. All right, coming back to the start of the existing conditions discussion. Right now we're looking at a screen grab of the existing road at the interchange. We have 3 through lanes in each directions and long right turn lanes to get onto the I-270 on-ramps. The existing sidewalk along the bridge is 4 foot wide and directly adjacent to the travel lanes, where the posted speed for drivers is 45 miles per hour. The sidewalk is the minimum width for pedestrians, and it does not accommodate bicyclists traveling through the section of the corridor. In this photo on the right, you can see that the sidewalk isn't wide enough for 2 people to walk side by side comfortably. There isn't a buffer or even a striped shoulder to separate pedestrians from vehicular traffic, and drivers can drive really as close as they want to the curb. In addition to the general discomfort of walking near traffic, moving at a high speed, there are some additional safety concerns in this area that is kind of unique to the geometry of the ramps. So I want to bring your attention to one of the crossings across the ramp. And the specific challenge for path users here is the sight distance. Due to the ramp geometry, the curvature of the ramp makes it difficult for path users to see oncoming cars. In the existing condition, these ramps are not stop controlled, and path users are having to negotiate a crossing where sight distance is very limited, and they're negotiating with drivers that are either getting ready to speed up to get on the interstate or getting off the interstate and are looking to merge with vehicular traffic on Shady Grove Road. So in this aerial view of the interchange, you can see that bicyclists and pedestrians are having to negotiate 3 to 4 crossings depending on the side of the road that they're traveling on. So I've highlighted each of those crossings, which I'm also going to call conflict points in this slide here. Okay, so what are we going to do about these challenges that we have at the interchange? To address these safety concerns of people moving through this section of corridor, we've developed 2 proposed options, and I'm going to present the first one. So this slide just shows some of the design development process that we did. And I'm going to go after this slide to the GIS so that you can see a little bit more clearly what our proposed options are. But on the slide, I want to bring your attention to the typical section at the top of the slide, where you can get a good view of all of the components of this proposed option. Again, I just want to reiterate that our overall goal is to provide a design that encourages drivers to slow down and watch for bicyclists and pedestrians, especially at those conflict locations. Again, we want to slow drivers at those conflict points and increase the visibility and presence of bicyclists and pedestrians so that we can avoid situations that lead to serious and fatal crashes where the vulnerable users are at highest risk. So in this snippet on that typical section, you can see that we're maintaining the 3 through travel lanes, which Michael showed in segment 1. The 2 inside lanes are 10 feet, and that outside curb lane is 11 feet. On the bridge, we're proposing a 16-foot shared use path on both sides of Shady Grove Road, and we're reducing the length of the right turn lanes that are on the bridge and proposing vertical separation between vehicular traffic and path users. Another design component that I want to bring your attention to on the slide is a raised crossing. You can see an example of that at the bottom in the photo. We're proposing this treatment on the on and off ramps for 270, as well as a signalized intersection and realignment of the ramps. Okay, so Now I'm going to go over to the GIS slide. So this is that web-based app, which you all will have a link to, and you can zoom in and scroll around at your own time and pace, and provide comments to us on what you think on the designs. So what I have pulled up here is the existing conditions, and just to provide some orientation, Shady Grove Road is this in the middle, and northbound Shady Grove Road is going to the right. And then this is I-270 here going approximately up and down on the screen. I want to point out those conflict points again that are along this interchange. So in the northbound direction, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And then at the top of the screen, we have 5, 6, 7. So that's 7 crossings and 7 conflict points that path users are negotiating in the existing condition. I'm going to turn on option 1. And here you get a better view of what I mean by realignment of the ramps. So as you can see, we're changing the curvature of those ramps there. And the reason we're doing this is that so that we can slow drivers ahead of the path crossing, which is super critical for increasing safety at these locations. And the existing ramp is long enough so that drivers have enough length to speed up before getting onto I-270 after they've gotten past the crossing. In this realignment, we're also bringing all drivers that are coming off of I-270 up to a signalized intersection. And you can see where this has the greatest impact. It's in this bottom right corner. In the existing conditions, drivers have a right turn lane where they can merge directly onto Shady Grove Road, but we're going to be bringing those drivers up to the intersection to turn with a signal. And by doing that, we're also reducing one of the conflict points for the path users. So removing one of those 7 conflict points at the interchange. All right. One important thing to note about this option is that it will require coordination and collaboration with M.SHA. So in summary, option 1 proposes design changes to move bicyclists and pedestrians safely through this section of the corridor, and includes a shared use path on both sides of Shady Grove Road, vertical separation on the bridge between path users and vehicular traffic, raised crossings and signalization at the ramps, removal of one conflict point and ramp realignment to slow vehicles, reduce conflict points, and increase safety for all users, but especially for vulnerable users through this section of the corridor. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Michael to present option 2.
Alrighty, thanks, Jinmi. So Jinmi's option that she's presenting you, that's more of a an intersection reconfiguration kind of traffic solution to the to this interchange. The second option that we developed, and let me go ahead and share my screen, addresses the problem through a let's call it like a structured solution, through a bridge solution. Throughout the county, particularly, you're seeing this right now with the Capitol Crescent Trail for the purple line, or even if you just go to the east of the 270 Shady Grove interchange, where the Carl Henn Millennium Trail crosses 270. There are a bunch of locations where you have a trail network. If you look kind of on your screen right here, you can see it. The trail network where they have a pedestrian bridge that's dedicated to that trail network that crosses 270.
Michael, we only see your face and your background, but we're not seeing the.
No good. How about now?
It looks like it's popped up now. Yep. Now we can see it.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. Let me go back to the. Here we go. So throughout the county, you have a variety of these kinds of crossings. So here, if you look on the bottom right picture here, this is West Montgomery Avenue. So the Carl Henn Millennium Trail that crosses, which is parallel to the roadway, crosses 270 with a dedicated bridge. So the approach that we have for this option 2 is, well, okay, instead of having a variety of networks where the Shady's path comes up and has to cross still over, a bunch of ramps, taking that Shady's path and making it totally dedicated and separated from that interchange and cross 270 independently. And so there's a couple of advantages of that. Number one, as Jinmi said, that 270 interchange is an MDOT SHA owned interchange, meaning that the configuration of 270, the ramps, that's all subject to SHA review and approval. Many of you are probably aware that right now on 270, there is a project that MDOT SHA is doing to try to widen it or reconfigure it with a variety of managed lanes. I don't believe that project has extended this far yet, up to 70, but I would imagine eventually it would. So by having a dedicated pedestrian bridge, you completely eliminate that potential conflict in the future for if and when SHA were to do that work. This is a shot of that Carl Henn Millennium Trail. If you were sitting below the 28 bridge, again, the dedicated bridge only for bicyclists and pedestrians. And the strategy that's being used pretty heavily actually on Purple Line construction right now. I'm going to pull up the GIS map again. Jay, I know you were asking about how to use the link. So let me just show you how it works from the very beginning. So this is that link that was that's in the chat. If you copy that and put it in your browser, you will get this screen right here. You click on view, and view will take you to that map. And from there, you can click on the various options here. So let me go back to the interchange. So this is option 1 shown here. This is the option that Jinmi just presented. Option 2, here you go. This is with your dedicated bridge to carry the trail. So that bridge is shown in blue, and it's crossing 270 to the east of Shady Grove Road. To give you an idea what that would look like, if you were coming northbound, right about here, you would transition up into the bridge. The bridge will cross over this ramp. So with this option, you don't have to cross any kind of ramps. It's dedicated all the way through. Over here, most likely be at grade. You could do some grading here so that don't necessarily need to be on a bridge structure. Of course, when you cross 270, that has to be aerial. Come back through here, over top of both these ramps, or all 3 of these ramps on a bridge structure, and then back down this ramp until you're at grade here to the north. So again, the major advantage of this option, you don't have to do any modifications to this interchange here at 270. It's a dedicated bridge. If SHA were to ever modify 270 or this bridge, the pedestrian facilities would be able to be maintained the entire time. It would not be impacted. And this is truly the way, this has the least conflict points compared to the other options. So obviously, if you're in a bridge and you're up in the air, you're out of the way of traffic. One disadvantage with this option, let me point it out, is you can only have one bridge crossing 270. I mean, I guess you could have 2 bridges, but it'd be a very, very high cost. This is the strategy that's typically used. So for those on the southbound direction, you can see we've removed the sidewalk here. So if you're coming from this direction, you would cross over, then go like this, down over the bridge, and then cross back over to the other side of Shady Grove Road at this Choke Cherry intersection. The reason we prioritized this is the east side as opposed to the west, is that the master plan has the breezeway network there. So the width of this bridge could be 16 feet to match that breezeway side path width. It could be 10 if that was if that was an option that the public really wanted. There's a variety of options there, but we chose the east side to place the bridge network as opposed to the west. Also, if you look over here, there's obviously no development or businesses in the middle of this interchange. Your closest thing is the Home Depot. Over here are some of the businesses to the south. So this is our option 2. We are really hoping to get some feedback from people on viewing this meeting for both of these 2 options, because as you can see, they're unlike that first segment that I presented maybe about 20 or 30 minutes ago. These 2 options, option 1 and option 2, are significantly different. Option 1 is a reconfiguration of the interchange. It's how do you make this prioritize pedestrians and bicyclists, while option 2 is approaching this from a structures perspective of totally raising up the that side path and getting it out of the way of motorists. So with that, let me pass it back on to our project manager, Cameron, for Q&A.
Looks like we got a raised hand.
Yeah, you can go ahead, Cordell.
Hello, thank you. Would it be possible to combine the bridge option with the removal of conflict points at the ramp signal, if that makes sense?
You mean like still reconfiguring the interchange and the bridge option?
Well, I was thinking specifically of closing that slip lane.
That's
Because that would still remove conflict for vehicles, and that would also be one less point for people to enter 270 the wrong way, which I know happens at that interchange.
So you're saying removing the slip lane going onto 270?
No, this might be better explained in an email, and I'm sorry, I can follow up.
no, it's okay. Yeah.
I know option 1 on the ramp from northbound 270 coming onto Shady Grove,
Oh, right here.
there was a proposal to close, right there. There was a proposal to close that right, so could we do that, but still with the bridge?
Yes, we could definitely take that into consideration. So instead of doing all of these ramp modifications, just as you're saying, this is a high priority to
Yeah, I would say that, yeah.
Okay.
And I do know, not speaking officially, but I know MSP Rockville has worked wrong way crashes from that ramp.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, and I could speak from experience. When we did this movement here, walking across this. I mean, it was going from here to here. Definitely did not feel that safe.
Mhm.
And then I mean, crossing that bridge on a 4-foot sidewalk.
Yeah.
Not exactly the most pleasant of feelings, that's for sure.
Yeah, and even if the bridge was there, that would still be one less conflict point for vehicles.
Yeah, that's a great comment. I'll make sure to make a note of that.
All right, looks like Jordan, you have your hand up.
Sorry, just had to get my dinner out of the oven. So is there a particular reason that these slip lanes in option 1 aren't combined with the other 2 lanes coming off of 270? And also, kind of second question, is there a reason that those slip lanes aren't controlled by a traffic light?
I can answer that question. So we wanted to bring those right turn lanes as close to the intersection as we could, but there's a lot of truck traffic along this corridor, and the turning radius for those really large trucks is around 100 feet. So this configuration that's shown in option 1 is providing the turning radius that's needed to get those large trucks onto the interstate. And then to answer your second question regarding signalization, we're proposing signalization at the ramps for 270 in option 1. And that's going to be super critical based off of what the site distance looks like. If this is selected, so, that is what we're proposing. But again, this is going to require coordination with SHA to make that final determination.
Right, but like these right turn slip lanes here specifically, are those going to be signalized as well? Is that is the traffic light going to be in front of those, or are those going to be free flowing?
You're talking about
You're not at that level of. refinement yet? Or...
Yeah, I'll let Barbara answer. She's our
Well, I was going to say, if you pull back up the GIS so we can make sure that we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, sure.
You want me to share it, Barbara? I can pull it up.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
One of you probably still has it open to the right spot.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. So Jordan, which spot were you talking about?
No, I'm talking about coming, I guess, east on Shady Grove and then turning right onto 270 and then the opposite motion going west on Shady Grove and going on to 270, these right turn lanes here that are going to be new.
Here.
No, I'm sorry. The one, I'm not really sure. On the east side of Shady Grove Road, that one right there, yeah. And then on the west side is Shady Grove. The ones that are being combined with these 3-lane off ramps.
Right. So I think
Jesus, 3 lanes.
So at those locations, we are talking about potentially having that lane would also have a traffic signal head.
Okay.
So it would be controlled. But again, like Jimmy said, that would have to be something that's worked through with SHA, but as an initial concept, that's what we're proposing and what we've studied.
Sure.
Nailed down which one we're talking about.
We have a question from Jordan.
Yeah, sorry, I had a second question. Do you have a preliminary cost estimate for these two options? Because it seems to me that while the pedestrian bridge is safer, at least in terms of vehicular conflicts, they tend to be much more expensive, right, than just basic intersection modifications.
So we found actually the pedestrian bridge option was cheaper. So to give you an idea, pedestrian bridge was around
Really?
$7 million range. While reconfiguring the interchange was in the 20 million range. So the reason for that is the signalization. That's very expensive, is reconfiguring that. To give you an idea, well, think about what they're doing right now on Purple Line and Capitol Crescent Trail. That's really the strategy that design builder has decided is the most cost effective for him to put the Capitol Crescent Trail next to the Purple Line. He's going
Right.
dedicated bridges everywhere, and the reason it's so the reason the cost is so low is that when you have these ramps that go up to the elevation of the bridge, they're able to build these walls. They're called mechanically stabilized earth walls. And they're really, really cost effective. You've probably seen them. They have these concrete panels. Sometimes they're shapes. But behind it, what they do is they have straps that's filled with soil. So it's a very, very cost effective way. And then the pedestrian bridge itself, I mean, if you're looking at, say, like a signature structure or something that's, really, really unique, yes, that cost would be really, really high. But for your this is I-70 is a state highway road. They would want something that's a very proven concept.
Right.
That could be potentially, if it was ever hit, it would be stationary. You wouldn't want to do something like they had in Florida. So those bridges are used throughout the country. I mean, they're really, really inexpensive. Personally,
Right,
I've designed about a half a dozen of them, and the prices for this kind of thing they're very easy to construct. You would essentially put it parallel to 270. You close 270 for an hour at night. A crane lifts it up, turns it, and places it, and then reopen it. So, from a maintenance of traffic perspective, it's cheaper. The materials are cheaper. So all those things go into play with the bridge construction.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess you're not getting Calatrava to design this thing, huh?
Yeah, that would be
Calatrava ripoff.
Yeah, it'd be a tried and true, probably steel truss that you see if you drive, next to Silverline, what they did in Dulles. It'd be something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
We have another question in the chat. would the bridge be as wide and big as the pedestrian bike trail over the Veers Mill at Aspen Road?
I'm very familiar with that structure. It would depend on what the final width that was used for the adjacent side paths. If it was 16 feet as part of that breezeway network, it would be 16 feet wide. If it was 10, it'd be 10. So it would be whatever is required. The one over Veers Mill, I believe that's a 10-foot, if I remember right from the last time I crossed it. So it would be similar in size. Now, the depth of that Veers Mill structure, that's on curved eye girders. They're really deep. They're like 3 or 4 feet deep. The bridge that we would be proposing wouldn't be like that. It'd be more like a steel truss where the majority of it is actually above you as you were to ride on it. That's your most cost-effective option. It's also the safest option because now your structure is higher up than adjacent bridges. So it's less likely to get struck by higher height vehicles that maybe are exceeding legal limits. So typically what the state requires is that pedestrian bridges are a foot higher than any adjacent bridge for obvious reasons. You don't want the pedestrian bridge to get hit. And the steel trusses, which is what we have proposed here. That's it's really your best tried and true structure type and the most cost effective. To give you an idea, the county has probably about a dozen of that type of structure.
All right, Jay.
Yeah, you made a comparison to the Hen Trail and the crossing there. Of course, there's no intersection there with 270. I think the fairer, perhaps more appropriate, be where the crossing at Montgomery Avenue, farther south on 270, which I think is a great crossing, and it feels very safe. I don't think that the option one for the Shady Grove Road is. I would never use it, and I bicycle in that area a lot, and it's just difficult. But a bridge would really work well, but it has to be one that considers the all the intersections. That's all.
Thanks for your input.
Yeah, the idea with the bridge, it would be spanning all of those ramps, and it would be you'd be up over the whole thing, and by the time you're back down, you're clear running down Shady Grove Road again.
All right, so I guess we can go ahead and move on to segment 3.
All right, let me pull up segment 3, Cameron. And I will. Okay, got the presentation up. It says I'm screen sharing, so I'm assuming everybody can see it sharing. If you can't, please let me know.
Looks good, Michael.
All right, good. And okay, so as I mentioned in the very beginning, today's presentation is from Darnestown Road to Gaither Road. We divide it up into 3 sections. You've already heard about Darnestown Road to 270. This is that 270 interchange. We just presented that. The final section is from 270 to Gaither Road. Gaither Road is essentially, if you know where the Amazon Fresh is or the Best Buy, that's the road that is just to the north of it. The remainder of this presentation, or the remainder of this project from Gaither Road to Mid-County Highway, that will be presented at a meeting at a later date. All right, so I'm going to present this in a very similar way that I presented segment 1 and give you existing conditions first, and then go into some of the options. Again, going to start with the southbound direction. And so this image here this is that new Amazon Fresh. If you were to go down this staircase and walk on this parking lot, you would see the Best Buy right over there and the Home Depot directly next to it. The existing conditions here are a little different than segment 1, but they're also very similar. There's three 11-foot lanes. This is what they used up and down the entire corridor. 11-foot lanes is a pretty standard width. Unlike segment 1, where there was a 5-foot on-road bike facility, there is no on-road bike facility here. There's a sidewalk That's typically 5 feet in width, but again, that's not a bike facility. So if you were a bicyclist and you wanted to use southbound southbound Shady Grove Road, your only option right now is to be on the road with vehicular traffic that they must be going 40, 50, maybe 60 miles an hour. They go very fast down this road. So that's the existing conditions southbound. What we're proposing is very similar to option 1. We're trying to keep consistency along the corridor. Southbound, it would be a 10-foot wide shared use path, 5-foot grass buffer. The outer lane, that's your rightmost lane if you're traveling down the road. That's 11 feet. That's for to accommodate future bus rapid transit if it was placed here, or even just existing bus traffic today. And then these 2 inner lanes, that's your leftmost lanes, reducing those down from 11 to 10. Again, this is pretty much the exact same thing we showed in segment 1, with the exception of there's no existing on-road bike facility here. So what it does is it takes a portion of Shady Grove Road that has no dedicated bike facility, and now we're providing one in this proposed condition. We do know that along this part of Shady Grove Road, there are quite a few businesses. Again, the priority is to try to, where possible, reduce the width of the overall travel lanes such that the edge of this side path is not infringing upon any kind of adjacent parking spaces, or many times you can see right here, there's a little hill. You know, the second you start widening more that way, it becomes more costly to try to, you know, build a wall or something like that. So the goal is to try to really use what's already there in the most efficient way possible. So southbound, we just have one option. It's the same thing as what we showed in segment 1. Northbound has a little different of a story. So let's kind of go through that. All right, so northbound, let's go to existing conditions again. Very similar, 3 11-foot lanes. There is a 5-foot sidewalk to the side. These are just 2 turn lanes that are making that left turn onto Gaither Road. So this is Gaither Road in the background there. Proposed option 1. Again, continuation of that breezeway network. Looking at a 16-foot wide path here. This is to accommodate both bicyclists and pedestrians. It could be just 16 feet width of asphalt. It could be have a curb that's dividing the two. It could have some kind of striping or some kind of removable ball. Or there's a lot of different ways it could be done. We're just showing the width right now, looking to get feedback from you, the public. 5-foot wide grass buffer. Here's your curb system. Same thing. We're taking 3 11-foot lanes and reducing them down to the 2 outer to 10 feet, while maintaining the rightmost lane at 11 for either bus rapid transit or existing buses that may be using this portion of Shady Grove Road right now. So that's option 1. Option 2, less impactful to the existing road. It leaves the 11-foot lanes intact and would have a 10-foot wide shared use path, 5-foot buffer. So let's go to the GIS map again. Gonna switch over to it. And over to the right. And just to reiterate, as you go through it, Shady Grove Road, it turns. So if you use that right mouse button, it can turn the map, and those instructions are all right here. If you click on this arrow, you go through right here, it tells you everything that we've been showing today, how to navigate through this map, and again, how to add comments. So we really encourage you to add comments. It'll provide a good feedback for us as we continue to progress this design. Looking at the 2 options, so here's the end of this, is to give you guys reference. This is 270 interchange here. So we're starting this location here. Here's the Home Depot. I guess this day when they were doing the aerial photography, they were staging some kind of materials on their parking garage. Here's the Best Buy. This is the Amazon Fresh. And here's Gaither Road. All right, so let's look at the 2 options again. Zoom in. Here's the existing conditions. Again, no existing on-road bike facility in either direction. option 1, 10 feet wide going southbound, 16 feet wide. This is that breezeway network. As I pan to the right, you can see some of the strategies that Cameron talked about, such as extending out those island noses or giving them area where pedestrians can have refuge. Right here by Choke Cherry, they're actually redeveloping this parcel right now, and that's under development review by the city of Rockville. But the goal will be to incorporate the master plan widths for these side paths. You can see it's kind of moving kind of side to side here. The reason for this is we were trying to avoid existing utility poles. Believe it or not, moving utility poles is kind of a time-consuming process. So the idea is we're trying to make something that's constructible in a shorter time frame. This, you can see the end of the segment here. Let me turn on option 2 again. Less impactful. Again, just 10 foot wide throughout this section here. So this segment 3 ends right here at Gaither Road. We're going to have another meeting from the section from here all the way up to Mid-County Highway at another date. But this is the segment. This is what our focus of our presentation is today. So with that, let me turn it back over to Cameron, the county project manager for this task. This is the last segment that we're presenting today. So Cameron, I'm going to pass it back over to you.
All right, 1 second. All right, so we do have a timeline of the project. So basically, we began the study back in October of 2022. We did our first field visit in November. March 2023, we had our preliminary recommendations, and July, we had our first NCDOT workshop where we revised some of the plans. We did another field visit, that's for the second half, which the public meeting we'll have next year will cover. And we are here at our first public meeting. So what you can expect is for us to take your comments and make our revisions to this. And then we will have our preliminary recommendations for phase 2, which will lead from Gaither Road to Mid-County Highway. We'll do another workshop and we'll have another meeting in the spring to discuss those. We'll take all the feedback and then it will go to the planning board and briefing. And that pretty much concludes our presentation. We do have, so this is the link to, if you click this link, well, we'll send it out, but we've also added it in the chat where you can fill out the online map. We also have a comment form that I can drop in the chat now as well, just to make it a little easier to access. And then all of these links and all of this information is also available on the project website, which I'll drop that link in the chat as well. But now is the time for any more Q&A, questions, comments, opinions. We definitely value your feedback.
So we do have a question in the chat. I know most of the intersections along Shady Grove Road within the project area still have older signals on span wire. Has there been any consideration into upgrading these during this project? I know the signal upgrades across the county are frequently accompanied by increased intersection illumination, which would also be a win for the corridor.
All right, so for the purposes of the funding for this project, it does focus more on the pedestrian and cyclist safety. That is definitely something I would take into consideration, and I can pass it off to our traffic division, as that would be something signalization and replacing of the traffic lights. It does fall under, it's still in CDOT, but it falls under traffic and highway services. Let's see.
Hey, Lori, And Cameron, in my chat, I see that Marianne Shriven has a comment. She said, I have a comment, cannot find how to raise my hand.
Oh.
Laura, I don't know if you're able to unmute her.
Click the reactions icon, which is at the bottom of her screen. It's from the left, it's the fourth icon in. She clicks the reactions icon and then raise hand.
Can we just unmute her and let her ask her question?
Sure. Let's see. Marianne, there she is. All right.
Hi. I have a question. I'm always concerned when I hear things that we're going to reduce the width of lanes to add things, because in my experience driving here and in places like Boston and New York, narrow lanes are bad. And I also just pulled up in Wheaton, I volunteer with the Wheaton Rescue Squad. And I just want to read a very brief thing. There's been a rash of mirror strikes. They've reduced the width of the lane to turn left onto Arcola Ave. And actually trucks are ripping the side mirrors off of fire trucks that are sitting in the left turn lane. And that's the problem caused by reducing the width of lanes. I don't think it's safe. I don't think it's a good idea, or at the very least, you need to make sure that you're not causing accidents by doing that. I drive on Shady Grove Road all the time, and there's a lot of unsafe driving going on there, even with the 11-foot wide lanes. So I'm always against reducing the width of lanes. And that's just my comment.
Thank you for your feedback, and we'll definitely take that into consideration.
I'll just say that in general, there is a relatively new guideline that the county, in coordination with our Maryland National Park and Planning Commission, has developed, and it's called the Complete Street Design Guide. And that, as a measure to reduce travel speed along the road, that is one strategy. And again, that's what the team has looked at. In the outer lanes where the larger vehicles, or the curb lane with larger vehicles, they are leaving the 11-foot lanes width. But in the interior lanes with the smaller vehicles would typically travel, they would have an option where they're reduced to 10 feet. But there are also the, I think both segment 1 and segment 3, they have the other option, which leaves the 11-foot lanes. So again, one is trying to be in respect the new complete street design guides. The idea is that narrow lanes, cars will travel slower because of potential conflicts like that, and that is a benefit for the pets and bikes.
Okay, well, you're assuming that people are all have their safety in mind, because narrow lanes don't reduce the speed of what we see on Shady Grove Road, and the people going 100 miles an hour I hear from my house on the ICC all the time. And I'm telling you, it's a real thing with the fire department, so that might be something. The safety chief's name is DC Russell, so you might want to reach out to him about what he thinks about the narrower lanes. Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate your comment.
Looks like I saw a hand, but it disappeared. Okay. You can go ahead.
Louise Magnani, go ahead.
It looks like you're still on mute.
Want to go with Alfred? Go ahead.
Good evening, and I can't emphasize enough how much I appreciate all of your hard work on this. This gives me hope at Briardale Road and Shady Grove Road. I know that that's in a later segment, but I feel very much connected. And I really encourage the continuity and the consistency of this design and this attention to continue up Shady Grove Road to Briardale and all the way to Mid-County. I can't emphasize that enough. And I don't want to end on a negative note, but the two fatalities on Shady Grove Road that I'm aware of happened between Crabs Branch and Briardale, two pedestrians. So we feel it very much, and I can't tell you how much I'm encouraged by your work and your attention to detail, and you're getting feedback from people. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I've heard from Almazi. His microphone is not functioning, but he would like to know the expected grade leading up from Choke Cherry Road to the bridge in option 2.
So the grades for that, the way it would work is the existing sidewalk as there right now, it would follow that grade up until the point where it needs to start going up to meet the bridge elevation. That grade is set by ADA requirements. So typically you can get pretty steep, but we would be looking at something like 2% possibly, or maybe a little bit more. But it's something that, you know, if you're a cyclist, you won't be going too hard to get up it. But we also have to take into consideration how far that would pull the ramp back. And typically the ramp would probably be about 100 feet or so long. But the grade will be set to meet both ADA requirements, and then also looking at, well, what would, from a bicyclist perspective, you know, what will be a grade that they can go up gradually without having to, you know, really exert a lot of force to get up there.
Do you have any more questions, comments? Feedback is really appreciated.
Do last call for comments. And if we don't hear anything, I mean, you can always write in. You can write into Cameron or Michael, and they will answer your question. And if you want any help with accessing the link, you know, please reach out to them as well. But again, thanks everybody for their participation. And you know, if you think of something tomorrow, please give us, you know, send us an email, probably the easiest way, and we can get back to you. And we'll hopefully look forward to you in the look at the other segments, you know, leading all the way up to Mid-County Highway in the spring. Last call, anybody? If not, we'll give everybody a half hour back of their evening. I appreciate everybody, you know, on the presenting team, and also, of course, obviously everybody that's, you know, residents and the public, their input is greatly appreciated. You guys travel the corridor, walk the corridor, bike the corridor. So we'd like to hear back from you. All right, I'm not hearing anymore. Again, thanks everybody, and we can go ahead and wrap up the meeting.
Thank you all for your time.